you say that in English again? Do you struggle to remember your vocabulary? This video is for you. Salut à tous, it's Marie from justfrenchit.com, and today I'm going to show you why you are forgetting your vocabulary and what you can do to improve your retention. So first, let's take a look at why you are forgetting your vocabulary. And the main reason why is because you are probably learning it by heart. But surely learning by heart is the most efficient way to learn vocabulary, especially long list of vocabulary that don't necessarily make sense. Not really. Learning by heart has one advantage. It is quick and easy, and you will remember it in the short term. But what about in a few weeks, in a few months? Will you still remember a list of vocabulary that you learned by heart if you don't use it? Probably not. For the sake of this video, we're going to use a short list that we're going to try to remember as we go through the different techniques that I'm going to show you. And this list is la tarte, l'escalier, le soleil. Nothing too complicated. So what could you do right now to make sure to remember the words on this list tomorrow, in a week, in a month, or in years? I'm going to show you 3 techniques to remember this vocabulary, but they all have the same goal: moving your vocabulary from your short-term memory to your long-term memory. The first technique we're going to take a look at is spaced repetition. Spaced repetition is fascinating, but I'm going to try to make it easy for you. So, without diving too deep into scientific data, this is what the forgetting curve looks like. So you see, after about 20 minutes, you only remember about, let's be nice and say you remember 60% of the information you've just learned. Okay? And after one day, you more or less around 27%. And after 31 days, you really only remember a quarter of what you learned. So this is how we forget. Although there is one advantage to this curve. Can you guess what it is? After a while, we stop forgetting as much. You can see that the curve is not as steep. So what's left of whatever we remember is stored in the long-term memory, which is exactly what we want to do. So, to counter our fantastic abilities to forget, which is really impressive, we simply have to start the curve again, right? The forgetting curve, if we start it again, over and over again, it would look something like that. Now you see, every time you review something, the curve starts again, right? And every time you review something, the curve is actually less steep. So the more you review it, the more information is stored in your long-term memory. So concretely, to remember your vocabulary, spaced repetition tells us that we need to review it regularly over a long period of time. If you review it every 5 minutes, it's not going to work. There's also plenty of spaced repetition programs that will take care of that scientific part of it for you, so make sure to watch until the end where I will give you my recommendation for spaced repetition programs. The second thing you can do to make your vocabulary stick is to make it memorable. It sounds very obvious, right? But let's take the example of how you learn your alphabet. Can you still sing the song? Do you still sometimes even picture the posters in the classroom? I do. How can you apply this to your French vocabulary learning? Easy. Look at the question I just asked. I used 2 verbs. I used the verb sing and picture. Now, it depends on your type of memory, but you will be more likely to remember something if you associate a memory, an action, or something very specific with it. So how can you do that when you are learning vocabulary? Get your senses involved. Listen, look, smell, taste, touch. Don't just confine your vocabulary to writing and listening. Okay? Create memories around it. You could, for example, learn the word bœuf with a recipe on the bœuf bourguignon. But okay, sometimes you can't create new memories with every word that you want to learn, right? Well, in this case, what you can do is associate a memory that you already have with the new word. For example, let's take a list. La tarte is not just, a pie. It's my grandmother's apple pie which actually is very rich and sweet and has sugar on top and you can feel it in your mouth. L'escalier is just not the stairs. It's the stairs in my first house where we'd go down the stairs on my butt. Le soleil is not just the sun. It's the sun in Corsica when it was almost unbearable to go outside because it was so hot. Now, I need you to create your own memories around your new vocabularies, okay? Or to select memories you already have. In short, you need to use your memories and senses instead of just the translated words to remember more easily. Are you serious about learning French? You should download my roadmap to fluent French. It is a step-by-step guide on how to learn French. The link is in the description below the video, so make sure to download it. Now, the third technique is to learn in context, and I'm going to talk to you about sentence mining once again. If you're following me since a while, you know I like to talk about sentence mining. So if you really want to know more about it, go and check this video. But here we're going to take a look at why sentence mining is going to help you to remember your vocabulary, okay? When you're learning list of vocabulary, there's two main reasons why you're not able to use those words in conversation later, why you think you forgot them. The first one we saw together is because your memory just doesn't work that way. And the second reason is because you remember the list, but not necessarily the individual words inside the list. And that's not good, right? You don't want to learn a list, you want to learn words. So one way to take advantage of your memory's reflexes of learning list and remembering the order of the words is to learn the words within sentences. Because after all, sentences are a sort of mini list of words, right? So if you remember the first few ones, you should be able to remember the rest of the words within the sentence. Plus it will give you a context, a sort of mini story that you will remember way more easily than just a word like that. Let's take a list and make a sentence out of it. J'avais le soleil dans les yeux. Du coup, j'ai glissé dans les escaliers et la tarte est tombée par terre. It might be actually easy for you to remember the first few words, for example, j'avais le soleil dans les yeux, and then your brain should do all the remaining work, let's say, and fill the rest of the sentence, and that way you will remember all the words within that sentence. And that sentence does not just contain 3 words, that way you learn plenty of vocabulary like du coup, glisser, tomber par terre, les yeux, etc. In short, you need to give context to your vocabulary by learning it within a sentence. That way it will enable you to remember the story and all the words within that sentence. Now, there's plenty of other techniques that you can use to remember your vocabulary. For example, learning with images instead of translated words. But it all comes down to repeating regularly what you've learned, using it into your practice, putting the words in context and generally making it more memorable. So what do you need concretely to remember your vocabulary? The only thing I would recommend you maybe invest or look at is spaced repetition program, like Mosalinga, like Memrise. Duolingo works on that, but you can't choose your words. And that's it, because the rest is up to you. Do you have a special trick to remember your vocabulary? Share it with us in the comments. That's it for today. As usual, apply what you've learned straight away. Keep learning, keep laughing, and I'll see you next week for another video on Just French It. À la prochaine!